The final session of the second round of talks between the official Syrian Arab delegation and the coalition delegation ends without reaching an agreement on the agenda because of the coalition's intransigence. Massive demonstration is organized in al-Shaghour neighborhood in Damascus to express support for the Syrian Arab army in confrontation of terrorist groups. Syrian Arab army units continue to chase terrorists in various governorates. About 16 Iraqi policemen and soldiers are killed in a series of terrorist attacks in various areas. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Irado Krikorian with the news in English. Syria's permanent representative to the UN and a member in the Syrian Arab Republic delegation to Geneva, Dr. Al-Jaafari, stressed that Syria's official delegation did not save any efforts despite the difficulties and obstacles it faces. Al-Jaafari stressed on the necessity for finding a political and peaceful solution to stop the bloodshed in Syria and reaching a credible understanding. In a press conference, Al-Jaafari said that Syria's official delegation agreed at the beginning of today's session on the draft project of the schedule submitted by the UN envoy to Syria, al-Shaghour al-Brahimi, as our agreement raised the concerns of the coalition delegation, where they started to raise their own predictions about the implementation of this schedule. The Syrian official delegation insisted on discussing every single item of Geneva communiqué to reach an agreement to move to the second item, but we were surprised that the coalition delegation wanted to deal with the first item, which is fighting terrorism and rejecting violence in a formality discourse, as we see such act as a huge mistake in the mechanism of negotiations. The matter that gives the impression that fighting terrorism is just a minor issue. Al-Jaafari added in the press conference that Syria's official delegation won't save any effort to make these rounds and negotiations of Geneva a success, with an open mind and positive spirit, because we are concerned with fighting terrorism as it is the main demand of the Syrian people. Al-Jaafari said that Brahimi did not put the responsibility of the failure of the negotiations on Syria's official delegation, and he was a witness over what happened in the sessions as the dispute started with the coalition delegation started giving their own prediction of the schedule.
The point was that the Syrian government's delegation accepted from the beginning, within the first 3 minutes of the meeting, the agenda proposed by the international mediator, Mr. Al-Brahimi. We did accept the agenda, the draft agenda of the meeting. The problem was raised immediately by the other side when they gave their own interpretation of the agenda. And this is where the problems started raising in the meeting. The other side gave his own interpretation of the agenda by saying that there is no need we finalize the first item. There is no need to fully finalize the first item. We will give it one day for discussion, and then we will move to the other item, which is the interim government.
But Ambassador, we all heard Dr. Brahimi say this was his proposal.
Yes.
One day on one, one day on the other. Why don't you accept his proposal?
Can you watch the cameras, please? Thank you. Watch the cameras, please. Thank you.
We don't accept this for a very simple reason. We said that once you have an agenda, you should respect the agenda fully, without any interpretation or misinterpretation. Hold on. Hold your horses. Hold your horses. We said that we cannot move from one item 1, to item 2 or item 3 or item 4 without fully considering this item and concluding by a common vision of this item by the two sides. Something that the other side objected to by saying, no, we don't agree with this reading. So they wanted to dictate their own interpretation of the agenda in a very wrong way. And this is where the problem started between the two sides.
Earlier, a joint session between Syria's official delegation and the coalition delegation in the presence of UN envoy to Syria, Al-Shaghour al-Brahimi, was concluded at the UN headquarters in Geneva. The official delegation said that the final session of the second round of the talks of Geneva2 conference ended without reaching an agreement on the agenda because of the intransigent stand of the coalition delegation. The insistence of the coalition delegation to ignore the suffering of Syrian people and its rejection to recognize that there is terrorism on the Syrian soil hindered the possibility of reaching a common ground between the two sides, despite the openness of the Syrian official delegation and its readiness to discuss Geneva communiqué an item by an item. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Gennady Gatilov said the Syrian official delegation wants the coalition's delegation to show commitment to fighting terrorism in cooperation with the Syrian government before other issues are discussed, including the transitional government. In a press statement published by Russia Today website, Gatilov indicated that everyone recognizes the existence of a terrorist threat in Syria, where large numbers of terrorist groups such as Jabhat al-Nusra and Al-Qaeda are active. He said that counter-terrorism efforts should be done before embarking on other issues, affirming his country's willingness to back any agreement reached between the Syrian sides. Syrian Arab Army, in cooperation with the National Defense Forces, completely controlled the areas of Al-Maqbara, Fallaha, Al-Villat Al-Humar and Al-Abid in Al-Hasaka countryside in preparation for a wide military operation to put an end to terrorist groups deploying in the countryside of the city. Units of the Syrian Arab Armed Forces carried out operations against terrorist dens and gatherings in several areas of Aleppo, killing and injuring many of them in addition to destroying their weapons and ammunition. A military source said that the Syrian Arab Army units killed scores of terrorists in the old city of Aleppo and the neighborhoods of Al-Marj, Bani Zayd, Karmel Miyassar, Hanano, Bustan al-Qasr and Sheikh Lutfi, in addition to destroying their equipment. The source added that another Syrian Arab Army unit repelled terrorists attempt to attack Carlton Hotel, killing and injuring all of them. Other Syrian Arab Army units inflicted heavy losses upon the armed terrorist groups in the villages of Al-Awaje, Hayyan, Haritan, Anadan, Rasm al-Abboud, Al-Jdeide, and the area surrounding the central prison. Citizens of al-Shaghour in Damascus took to the streets affirming support to national stances and the Syrian Arab Army, which confronts the armed terrorist groups to restore security and stability to the homeland. They affirmed their adherence to national and pan-Arab principles, voicing complete support for the official Syrian Arab delegation to Geneva conference. With wide official and popular participation, the Quneitra Governorate organized a mass rally on the occasion of the 32nd anniversary of the national open and general strike that came in response to the Israeli decision to annex the Syrian Golan. The activity was held in the area of Ain al-Tine, opposite to the occupied Syrian town of Majd al-Shams. The participants stressed that the Golan is an Arab-Syrian land and that its people are committed to the Arabism of their land, challenging all Israeli attempts to Jewedize the land and people. Al-Quneitra Governor Ma'an Salah ad-Din said in a statement that the struggle will continue under the Syrian leadership and army until Syria is victorious and all of the occupied Golan is liberated. In turn, head of a Tawheed party in Lebanon, Wa'am Wahab, hailed the steadfastness of the people of Golan, who did not abandon their Syrian nationality even after 45 years of occupation, appreciating their support to the Syrian Arab army and leadership. Concerning Iraq, 16 Iraqi soldiers and 7 policemen were killed during clashes and terrorist attacks in many areas. Sources from the police showed that 5 policemen were killed and 2 were injured by an explosive device near an oil pipe in PG. Moreover, a colonel in the police was assassinated by armed gangs in his house in Tikrit, as another armed gang attacked a vehicle with soldiers near Tikrit. So 4 soldiers were killed and 3 were injured. Finally, Russia's permanent representative at the UN, Vitaly Churkin, called the European Union to be committed and do not interfere in the internal affairs of Ukraine as to stop the threats of imposing sanctions against this country. During a meeting in the Security Council, Churkin said they share the view that the way out of this crisis must be found by the Ukrainian people themselves, as he hopes that this idea will consistently be fulfilled in practice without any threats of sanctions or competition on promoting European values or players about who will comprise the ministers in a future Ukrainian government. With this, we end our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, syriaonline.sy. Now to latest business and market news with Nariman Qassam, but after a short break.